Hello and welcome to my first FIA race in over a year. If you did miss my last video, I briefly explained that I haven't really been on Gran Turismo Sport at all for the last 12 months or so, other than a couple of community events I did. But I haven't certainly done any FIAs for a long time. I wanted to jump in. Unfortunately, I didn't have a lot of time to practice, so I thought I would do it once as something of a practice run on my second account on one of the early time slots, and then jump over to my main account and try again with a bit more experience up my sleeves. So if you do enjoy the video, please remember to leave a like, hit subscribe if you're new, and let's get into it. Now, I only had one GT4 car unlocked on this account. It was the Lexus RCF, which, as you can see, I am in with no skin on it there. I only managed to qualify 6th position, but I wasn't entirely unhappy with that. I only did half a dozen practice laps. I also forgot that you have to turn a bit of traction control on to get off the line, and I didn't do that, and I just sat there and spun, and as you can see, off to a pretty awful start. Already back to 8th, I've got Ben Cuzzy coming up next to me, side by side to try and capture 9th off me. Not a lot you can do in turn 1, I just wanted to avoid contact. I copped a little bit of a hit there in the rear, but nothing untoward, and still side by side with Ben. The problem is I'm going to be caught on the outside here. There's not a lot I can do except really roll out of that and let Ben take that position. And yeah, 6th back to 9th, not the start I wanted. Now, luckily for me, Gnarly Taxi went very, very wide, so I was able to sort of gain one position back. But I didn't want to let this race get away from me. If I wanted to get anywhere near the front, I guess I needed to kind of press on. A couple of the people out the front were quite fast as Captured goes well wide there. Again, much like my last video in the daily race, I'm surprised to see someone get so incredibly sideways out of a corner. And I actually didn't gain on him at all, so I don't really know how that happens. Everybody bunched up here the first time. I wasn't really anticipating that, but I saw the opportunity, shoved it up the inside of Ben Cuzzy. Side by side, I gave him plenty of racing room there. Now, obviously, he's trying to push me out, because if you go just slightly wide and hit that cone, you get a penalty. I suspect he knew that, but all's fair in love and war, and he basically had to yield to me there. Now, Captured's got a 1-second penalty in front as well, so I knew that as soon as we hit the front straight, I was going to be able to get back past him, and that's not so bad. That's a recovery on lap 1, starting 6th with an awful start. I dropped back to, 10th there at one point, and I'm actually going to be able to recapture 6th position by the end of lap 1. So, as Captured does take that penalty, and I do pick up the freebie spot moving back into 6th position, I just tried to tuck in behind Crabman there. I was just under half a second behind him, so it should have been close enough to get a bit of slipstream. I never intended on trying to make a move down into turn 1, but much like I forgot traction control off the line, I also forgot that I now have a full tank of fuel, and I can't use the same braking marker as in practice. I get it all wrong, spear down the inside, unfortunately make contact with Scum Chaos there. Many apologies to Scum, that was just poor driving. I essentially forgot. And I got a 2-second penalty picked up. Totally deserved, that is on me, that's my bad. But I thought I'm just going to press on now because I'm going to have to serve the penalty anyway. And as you can see, as soon as I did, the entire world came ripping past me. And I dropped from 4th all the way back to 9th place. Crabman also stuck behind me there with a penalty to serve himself. So yeah, back to 9th after all of that hard work to get into a good position. I thought I would quickly dispatch Crabman, even though I did suspect he was at least as fast as me, possibly a little bit faster. But, you know, there was a group forming up in front of us, as you can see, 8th through to 5th position, as Crabman does make light work of me up the inside there, and fair play to him as well. We had actually, as a team, as a duo here, managed to catch back up. I had the slipstream. I thought I'm going to stick it down the outside. I know the Lexus is fantastic on the brakes, so I braked as late as I possibly could without running wide. And unfortunately, Scum and Nismo, they got into a bit of a ruckus in front of me. I slowed right down so as not to make contact with the cars. That's how I picked up a penalty in the daily race. Decided to tuck to the inside and stick with Crabman. I thought he's got a bit of pace on, maybe rather than fighting him. The best thing I can do is follow him through on his overtakes, get him to do the hard work, and see if we can't sort of work together to get towards the front. Now, Nismo did tuck back in between us, but he went very slow on the final corner for some reason. I'm not sure. I promise I didn't outbrake myself. He went a lot slower than expected. We now entered into the world's longest drag race, where nothing was gained, but I did manage to outbrake him again. The Lexus is quite strong under brakes, and I was tucked back up behind Crabman, so it looked like we had a couple of seconds to go to try and catch back up. Crabman running well wide there, so I saw the opportunity and thought, you know what, you had a crack, you were doing well, let me take the reins. We're only 3 seconds behind. We'll see if we can't catch up to Doc. And just a few laps later, here we are, captured, unfortunately for him, running running off the track, spearing into the wall, giving me yet another free spot, as he did on lap 1. And we just had a good battle. We just, we pushed hard. I actually managed to pull away from Crabman there. I'm 2 seconds clear of him as I get another free spot as someone spears off into the wall. So I'm just sticking with Doc, and I'm just trying to pour as much pressure on him as I possibly can. I have a cheeky little look up the inside there. I didn't really think that would pull off. I didn't want to make big contact with him, but I'm just trying to hound him. I'm trying to add that pressure on so that he makes a mistake, and that's another overtake I don't essentially have to do, because it'll be up to him to keep it clean, keep it fast in front of me. Now, I did actually manage to get in the slipstream of this Jag, and you can see him just trying to break it, but he knew it was inevitably over. So I pulled to the left-hand side, which is advantageous to him. But again, as I've said previously, really late on the brakes, and I was able to exact my manoeuvre on him and take 3rd position. Lap 10, there's only 4 laps to go. I'm going to flick forward here because he didn't actually fall off the back of me, and he was able to get back into my slipstream and essentially pull the same manoeuvre on me as I'd done on him previously. I looked to the inside. I thought I'm going to go late on the brakes here. He was quite accommodating, to be fair, but that brought us side by side as we move down here, and I was able to actually get that done. So I'm going to flick through to the final lap. Unfortunately, into this corner, I don't think I was quite defensive enough, and I got shunted a little bit wide. I don't think there was anything malicious in that. I think I just bounced off him wrong. That was the end of that. 5th position, not terrible. 1 spot above where I qualified. Probably not the result I was hoping for or potential. Moving on to race 2 on my main account now. You can see I only qualified 13th because I was in top split. I thought, what the hell? But watch this launch. That is the power of the WRX all-wheel drive with traction control turned on to 2, and I've got to say, without patting myself on the back too hard here, that was an absolute cracking start. But coming down into turn 1, trying to be very careful not to make contact and pick up a penalty, I managed to hold round the outside there with KZ. The WRX is actually very good mid-corner. It's very good under acceleration and just generally has nice grip, especially compared to the Lexus I was just in. Unfortunately, it does lack in tyre wear, as you'll see a little bit later on in the race, and it severely lacks in straight line speed. But I was trying to use the advantages I could. I was happy to actually be able to hang on to KZ around the outside as long as I did there. But my main goal really was just to try and stick with people for now and see what I could pick up. I never wanted to be in the top split. I didn't imagine I would be in the top split. This account hasn't seen any action for 12 months. I don't know why it put me in there, but nonetheless, the only preparation I had for this race was the previous race that we just watched. So anything that's close to a top 10 or near a top 10, I thought I would be happy with. And as KZ and Rosmo battle it out there, I kind of thought maybe I could stick it up the inside, just follow KZ through and leave Rosmo out to hang him out to dry, as it were. But he actually had the grip and just powered through. So yeah, basic goal was simply to stick with these guys as long as I could, hang with the front group, and just see where the race takes me. I certainly had no plans of getting any further up, and it looked like they had a good battle, to be fair, at the front, but it wasn't one I was going to be involved in. Right about here is when I started to learn at the severe deficit of the WRX in a straight line. It wasn't the worst exit from the final turn, maybe not the best, but not the worst, and even in the slipstream of KZ there, I couldn't keep up. And in fact, is it Gaban's there? Is he a GT Sport penalty? Sorry, as he goes past me, he was just able to use a bit of slipstream and power on through. So I'm back in the situation where I've got a car that's great in the corners, under brakes and under the acceleration, not so good in a straight line, which is a challenge at Fuji because it has such a massive long front straight. But as I make a little bit of contact, yeah, you don't worry about that, that's fine. What you can see though is I have managed to, on lap 4, stick with this front group, and I wouldn't say I was comfortable with the pace. I was working, but at the same time I wasn't flinging the car around. I was just staying there, and I'd actually managed to pull a 2.5 second gap over IMAT in 12th place behind me. Being in 11th, again, totally fine. I was aiming for a top 10, so we'll see how we go. But check this one out. As I come out of that corner, I get a better launch than GT Sport penalty in front of me. I sit right up behind him. I'm in his slipstream and I still can't even keep up with him. Like, not only can I not pull out of the draft and overtake, I couldn't even keep up. So as that gentleman runs a little bit wide, I did try and take the opportunity. I thought he's going to feed me on the inside and give me a penalty. No, he actually didn't. He backed out of it, and I moved back up to 10th position. So I was part of the pack. I was feeling pretty good about myself. And if you watch the radar here, the problem was Ikatosh, who I just overtook, he hung with me, and whilst I was he was hounding me. Let's be fair. And I was driving in a far more defensive manner, and it allowed the pack to get away from me. And he was probably getting frustrated because he wanted to go with the pack. So did I, but I just couldn't really make it work. So whilst he was hounding me, you can see they've actually pulled 3.5 seconds. Once I dropped off the back of that group, I kind of knew that that top 9 wasn't going to work, and then just a bit of bad driving, ran wide, picked myself up a 1 second penalty. And as I fast forward down the straight to quickly show you that eventually Matt did catch up and sling past me like it was nothing. So back to 11th, that's fine. Still aiming for a top 10. Let's charge on. And I've got close company. Fast Phil right behind me, just 3/10 back. So as we battle on, although iMac got very sideways there, if you do run wide on that, I find that your car sort of bottoms out over the curve and you can get very sideways. Now I've got a much better final corner and a much better drive, but as we discussed earlier, I don't have the front line or the straight line speed, so he was able to just cruise back on past. We're on lap 11 at this point, about to clock over and make it the second last lap. But what I kind of have cut out of this, it was actually a really good battle. It's one of those ones that I didn't want to leave the whole thing in the video, because if you're not there and you're not watching, it's you don't really get a great understanding. Fast Phil stuck in my slipstream there. He pushed on and made a really good maneuver into turn 1. I'm trying to fight back as hard as I possibly can here, trying to decide if I should just give him the position or trying to hang on around the outside, but I think it's almost inevitable. It's very hard to hold the outside line. The advantage was I finally found one car in Gran Turismo, the WRX, could sit in their slipstream, actually gain up to the car in front, and even pull out and try and get past. As we start the second last lap, I'm wanting that 11th position back. iMatt is just starting to skip away at the front, and as late as I possibly could on the brakes. To be fair to Fast Phil, he was also quite good, but I did manage to execute the manoeuvre successfully. Final lap now. Have a look at my front tyres. They have copped an absolute battering. I did move the brake bias forward to try and counteract that as Phil and I continue our battle. I try and stick to the outside, but I just didn't have the same front end grip that I did earlier in the race, where I might have been able to hold that. And you can also see, if you look at the radar, Mad Max now is currently right there as well, so he came back hard. Mad Max is another name that I remember racing with back when I was on Gran Turismo Sport more often. He's a wily old dog. He can come down the last shower, and he knows how to dispatch a rookie. Could you call me a rookie, I suppose? A refreshed rookie after 12 months off. But he knew what to do, and I just sort of went in and gave him a little kiss just to let him know I was still there. Stuck to the outside, but again, he knows about that penalty spot. He knew if he ran me wide there. So fair play. As I say, didn't come down the last shower. He knew what was going on, and he comfortably dispatched me. But as you'd probably imagine, back in 12th position now, there's not a great deal I can sort of do from this point. I've got no straight line speed. So that was it. 12th position, not the greatest result, but I actually really genuinely had fun over the course of those two races. So hopefully you did enjoy watching that as well. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Thank you very much for watching. Remember to leave a like, hit subscribe. I can't wait to talk to you in the next video, but for now, it's goodbye.